Bank Studios.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and that theme music means it's time for our weekly conversation with the wirepoints.org guys. Mark Glennon this week. Before we get to that, before we get to Mark, interesting provision in the BBB, something we talked about in the run-up before it was passed, is the tax credit provision for K through 12 scholarships. And I don't know that we've gotten into it, but there was a provision in the big, beautiful bill that provides for a dollar-for-dollar tax credit for individual taxpayers who donate up to $1,700 annually to scholarship granting organizations, designated scholarship granting organization, which give money to students to cover private school tuition and other education expenses. So that would be, you know, here in Illinois, Empower Illinois is a scholarship granting organization. I assume the Daniel Murphy Foundation is a scholarship granting organization for the purposes of this tax credit. But a bit of a wrinkle that puts Dems in a bit of a trick bag, especially as we were talking about with Theodore Dalrymple, the fork-tongued varietal of Dems, and frankly, is there any other kind? What happened in the process is the Senate parliamentarian ruled that making the provision mandatory nationwide violated the Byrd Rule. The Byrd Rule that governs reconciliation, that has to be budget-related, impact revenue or spending. So it was stripped out. So it's still there, but states have to opt in. So this puts school choice to the test on a state-by-state basis where you don't otherwise have school choice, like, say, Illinois. And don't forget what happened to our tax credit scholarship program here. Jelly Belly was against it. Then he was for it right before the 2022 gubernatorial election. And then he had House Speaker Chris Welch kill it after that election in the subsequent legislative session. It's very interesting because his newly minted mascot / running mate, Christian Mitchell, has a very similar story. When Christian, and it's funny too, because it's such a tell about how, well, it's just a tell about Illinois politics. And I posted this during my vacation, but I'll bring it in now that we've got this interesting dynamic with the opt-in provision for school choice in Illinois. And this is going to be something that should be an election issue this cycle, at the state level, statewide candidates as well as legislative candidates, because it's an opt-in decision. And for all those who on again, off again, pretend to be for school choice, but really do the bidding of the teachers' unions, there's another moment of truth that has been presented. Christian Mitchell, who was a state legislator before he became deputy governor, before he filled the vestigial Michelle Obama post at the University of Chicago, before he became Governor Jelly Belly's LG running mate this campaign cycle. He came in, young community organizer. He's got good academic credentials, University of Chicago undergrad. Shows up on the political scene talking the new Democrat rap. Have you ever heard this story before? Sounds positively Obama-esque, doesn't it? Joe Biden might have called Christian Mitchell articulate, bright, and clean back in the day. What did Mitchell do when he arrived on the scene? He wooed guilt-ridden, honky billionaires looking for a mascot of color themselves, like Lester Crown family, who used its ironically entitled and laughably inept vehicles like the quote-unquote We Mean Business PAC and Stand for Our Children Illinois PAC to funnel campaign cash to Mitchell. These were dilettante billionaires dabbling in politics, thinking that you have to be run by the left. You can't ally with actual school choice conservative reformers, pro-school choice conservative reformers. No, heavens no. You hire Madigan staffers to run these PACs and to funnel money to flim-flammers like Christian Mitchell. By the way, when he took all that money, Stand for Children, We Mean Business, yeah, right, PACs, Chicago Teachers Union, Karen Lewis lit him up. There's a press release I posted from the Chicago Teachers Union back in the day. The Crown Prince, talking about Christian Mitchell's donations from the Crown family. But don't worry, Christian Mitchell would sell them out. And he did. Because he recognized that his political ascent would be much less steep if he simply sacrificed the futures of black and brown children in Chicago in service of his own. And that's what he did. So Jelly Belly Pritzker did too. So no more rhetorical support for charter schools. And in fact, Christian Mitchell opposed the tax credit scholarship program that was signed into law by Ronner. That, of course, disproportionately benefited minority kids from low-income households, including in the district he represented when he was in the General Assembly. But no matter, like so many of them. And so now he's earned another promotion. And what's another couple years, maybe 4 years of, cleaning up after Pritzker so that he can get backed for statewide office or a federal office, just like Juliana Stratton, the LG running for Senate, is being backed by Pritzker. So Pritzker and Mitchell Mitchell was for school choice before he was against it. Pritzker was against school choice before he was for it, before he was against it. Now where will we find themselves? Will we find them, and will they find themselves in 2026? For more on this, Mark Glennon, founder and executive editor of Wirepoints.org, joins us. Mark, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Dan. Good morning.
It's an opportunity to revisit it, sort of what we couldn't sustain at the General Assembly level. We have another bite at the apple, as it were, thanks to this opt-in provision in the big, beautiful bill.
Yep, put up, Governor. Let's see what you got. Of course, this is overwhelmingly popular with the public, too, like on so many issues where Pritzker is out of touch with the people even of Illinois, not just the nation. And we'll see what he does here. I wouldn't be surprised if he flip-flops again, but so far his record is to kowtow to the Chicago Teachers Union and the other teachers' unions.
Right. Stacey Davis Gates, the person who is in charge of your kids, as she so declared at the City Club the other week. It is quite interesting because you have Pritzker, trying to position himself against a field that includes other governors in places like Kentucky and Maryland and California Pennsylvania that are also going to have this choice.
Yep, and there's an increasing split between Pritzker and many of these other Democrats. It's not just this issue. Nebraska, for example, with the Democratic Governor Pillen, just signed a legislation banning companies linked from the Chinese Communist Party from getting any money in Nebraska. Pritzker, of course, seems to be infatuated with those companies and throws the money at them, with Goshen being the most conspicuous example. He's just out of touch with the public on so many issues.
Well, and also we saw recently, too, the typical headline and to use for his claims about bringing business. He's out there bringing business to Illinois. But he's bringing business to Illinois at a huge cost to taxpayers. And this lithium battery plant, Pure Lithium, is the latest example of that.
Yeah, pure lithium, of course, that gets lots of headlines, unquestioned. 50 jobs only, tiny fraction in a state with 12.8 million people. But we had to pay $4.4 million bribe to get them here. It comes to about $5,000 per job. That's very much on the high end of in incentives that are paid by the states that play this game of bribery for bringing in jobs. But it's just another example. It's nice to have those pure lithium jobs here, but geez, for that kind of money, that's not telling us very much, and 50 jobs isn't much at all.
I'm always looking for good news in Illinois. It's often difficult to find. But I did see this, that some of these suburban communities that...
And you faded out on me, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me? Mark? Did we lose?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dan. You faded out on me.
Okay. You got me now? Mark?
Try again. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm always looking for...
you there?
Okay. We obviously have a problem with Mark's line. All right, let's take a break and try Mark back.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The Dinesh D'Souza Podcast, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
Probably heard, but you don't have to take your shoes off anymore when you go to the airport. This really shows you how stupid government bureaucracy is. One guy takes off his shoes, everybody freaks out, and then for 20 years, all the airlines across the country make tens of millions of people actually pull their shoes off.
Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, I think we have Mark Glennon from Wirepoints.org back. Mark, you with us?
I am, Dan.
All right. So I was just saying before we had that little communication mishap that you're always looking for positive things occurring in Chicagoland and Illinois. It's sometimes difficult to identify. I wonder if we move to the leafy suburbs. What do we see from, say, commercial real estate in the leafy suburbs as compared to the city? And what do we see actually from some of these suburban governments as compared to city government? Do we see anything positive? I noted one story that indicated that some of these suburbs were getting off of the crack of the red light camera revenue. They were moving away from that because, of course, it was all about backdooring taxpayers with what you couldn't get through the front door. It was never about public safety or road safety. But anyway, on those sorts of things, the way some local units of government in the suburbs are performing vis-a-vis the city, the way that commercial real estate and the business climate is in the suburbs vis-a-vis the city, are we seeing any positive movement?
Well, on your first question, yeah, the real estate situation is becoming very critical there. Crane's just had an article up showing record high empty office buildings in the suburbs. Now, that's just catastrophic for suburbs because they get so much property tax revenue typically from those buildings, and the only ones that are staying occupied are the very new ones with the most modern amenities. They have to be waking up and responding to this. They have no choice. So we've seen things like that back off on the red light cameras. But boy, from what I've seen from a former suburbanite, I just downsized and moved out of a suburb. The trend is still to the left. They have a lot of people moving in from California, even. Anecdotally, I've seen a surge of people coming from the LA area, for example, into the area, and the brokers confirm that for me, even from New York.
Like into the into the city or to the North Shore, or where?
Both. And I and on my home that I sold recently, we had offer sight unseen from California, that's people are, the people on the left are fed up with some of those blue states, and they see Illinois as a bargain real estate wise. They still do, and so quite a few of them are fleeing here. I think you'll see those trends reflected in numbers eventually, but anecdotally, it's just very, very strong.
So with respect to home prices, because I keep hearing this about in some of these upper income suburbs that home prices are pretty good. People still feel like they're getting return on investment. Is that a mirage, or is that just something that is happening now because of some of the externalities created by policies in other states? But ultimately, the underlying problem is the property tax levels in Illinois, and it's going to the math is inexorable. It's going to catch you.
Yeah, that's all true. Supply and demand is a tricky thing with housing prices, but it is true that these suburbs are very strong price-wise, multiple offers, homes selling very quickly in the stronger suburbs. And underlying that, however, is simply a shortage of new housing coming online. And of course, that's being reflected especially in high rents in Chicago. And there's just nothing new coming online. And in the city, it remains very popular for young people moving in, and they're paying these very high prices. I took an apartment in Chicago. I saw it myself. And this is going to get worse, I'm afraid.
So you don't feel like there's a glut of, or not feel like, your assessment is there's not sort of a glut of condo buildings where and condo availabilities where you're seeing prices come down even in the city?
Condos are a little trickier, especially at the high end. They've had problems over the past couple of years, but it's the two-bedroom kind of thing that with more modest prices where the difficulty is really growing. I think for the kind of people that had been a remaining strength of the city, that is young people moving into the city in Streeterville, for example, where I've taken an apartment. It's getting very, very tight.
Mark Glennon, founder, executive editor of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Mark Glennon, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Annie joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
At almostfreeteeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant-supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at almostfreeteeth.com.
Wow. At the time of this being written, both gold and silver are up some 40%. That's 40% in just 1 year. In fact, this past year, gold has broken all-time historic records by hundreds of dollars an ounce. And unlike all other financial instruments used today, that historic record goes back thousands of years. In times like these, prices have never been better on most